Talktainmentradio.com.
We give you a reason to come.
The world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of Talktainmentradio.com, 3MR Production, its ownership, management, or staff.
We've got the power.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I'm Brother Kahari, sitting in every week at the same time as we talk about the affairs of the world and we look at the planet and we try to get an understanding of what's going on. Joining us is Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Mr. Fuller, how are you, sir?
I'm still learning.
Mr. Fuller, tell us about your two definitive works on race, racism, and white supremacy.
Well, the basic title is called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and the subtitle is called A Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and or Action for Victims of White Supremacy. White supremacy being racism, racism being white supremacy. And that's the basic book, and then there's an additional book with the same title, but there's also a subtitle, a more explanatory title, A Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide, and that talks about how to use words, because words are something that people use every day. In the Northwestern Hemisphere, for the most part, it's the English language, and words can be very tricky and can cause people a lot of pain and trouble. And so how they are used and the way that they are used will determine whether it results in something constructive happening or something that is non-constructive happening, because these are going to be the results of any exchange of words between people. And so the books basically are addressed to people who are victims of racism, because racism is considered to be, from my perspective, the most important problem on the planet among people today. Racism in the form of white supremacy. And if you don't eliminate the system of racism, no other major problem can be eliminated. That's the premise. Now that premise may be true, it may be false, but that's the premise that I take. I start with that premise. I don't care what problem you mention in what area of activity, whether it's economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, or war. You're not going to solve any of those problems. And all of those areas of activity have problems, but you're not going to solve any of those major problems without first addressing the issue of racism in the form of white supremacy. You have to eliminate that problem first. Or in the process of trying to eliminate the other problems, you have to eliminate that problem. Otherwise, all of these problems are going to continue on a monumental scale. That's the premise. And the books are addressed to individual persons as to what individual persons can do about it. And that's why I wrote the books. I wanted something that would be addressed to what people can do every day to try to solve this problem of racism, and then after, in the process of doing that, establish what I call eventually universal man and universal woman, because we are in the universe, and we need better qualified people than we have right now, which is mostly racist man and racist woman and their victims. And the people of the earth deserve better. This earth deserves better. This planet deserves better, because we all have a creator, and it shouldn't be run on the basis of racism being the dominant factor. Universalism in the form of people doing all things constructive should be the best system. And that means that the system of racism has to be replaced, first of all, with a system of justice. That's the premise.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, one of the things that's about to happen in this area of the world that we live in called the United States of America is this notion of something called Obamacare. We're about, 6 or 7 months off from it officially taking effect. One of the conversations I had with you was the language of health care and why it's so difficult. And that's all these fields. They create this preposterous language and these words. You simply say, what the hell is this? And you're looking at something and it could be much more simpler and it could be much more geared toward people understanding it. Let's talk about that in the first segment, Mr. Fuller. Healthcare, this language, if you were in charge of it, what would you do differently?
Try to simplify the language and try to get more people into the healthcare field because it's definitely needed. Doctors are overworked, they're stressed out, from my observation, and the administration of healthcare systems is becoming more and more complicated. And in the system of racism, you can expect that because one of the first things that a racist will do is complicate everything. Take simple things and make them complicated. Or any person who is setting out to dominate other people. If you set out to dominate or do harm to other people and you want to do it in a smooth, sophisticated manner, one of the first things you want to do is make things complicated. Take simple things and make them complicated.
Now that's significant. That's significant. Back up and repeat that, Mr. Fuller. That is significant what you just said.
Yes, if you want to dominate people and mistreat people on a grand scale for a long period of time, with a minimum of problems, you will do that by making simple things complicated for the people that you intend to mistreat and dominate. So you take everything that's real simple, you look at it and study it and try to figure out a way to make it more complicated than it already is. And then you put that out there to the people that you're trying to dominate and mistreat. And then you become the controlling factor because you are the person who made the simple things complicated. And so that would be in the field of law, particularly. That's one of the first fields. And health care. And you can do it in religion. You can do it in every area of activity. Economics. And one major way of doing this is by manipulating how language is used and coming up with all type of words that are unnecessary. Rather than say 1 and 1 is 2, find some complicated way to say that so that it takes 3 months for a person to even learn what you're talking about.
I mean, that was the same thing in the courses that you take in college, like took a course in accounting or you take a course in other things and you say all these things have a language of their own, but it's really simple. I mean, you're bringing in so much money or you're not bringing in so much money. Here's your debts. Here's your expenses. I mean, how much more, but you got all these $20,000 words. Same thing in healthcare. I mean, here's how the body functions. Like you said, a simple explanation will do, but we don't get that, do we, Mr. Fuller?
No, you don't get that. I mean, you take a bunch of first graders, if you really want to, you can claim that you're a mathematician and say that you're going to teach them math. So right there in the first grade, without explaining anything, as soon as they take their seats for the first time and pick up their little pencils out of the pencil box and whatnot, you throw out leg of hypotenuse. All right, let's go with it. And they all look at each other, and what you have done, I mean, for the next 30 minutes maybe, is throw out a whole bunch of words, none of it connected with anything, nothing explained in detail, nothing gone over, because you have to train minds. Now, it's another word, training. And people should think about this on the job, because they do a lot of things on jobs. They say, well, we train you to do this, and you're not doing the work.
Yeah.
Where they really didn't train you. They told you. It's a difference between telling and training. I call it the 3 T's of labor. Telling, training, testing. Now, a person can tell you to do a job, and then later on, they skip over the second T, which is training, and go right to the testing. So they jump from telling to testing. And after 6 months, they'll say, well, you should know this by now. I mean, what's wrong with you? I mean, are you an idiot? I mean, you know, we have trained you, and yet you are not doing the work. You're being lax. And the person says, well, I'm doing the best I can and whatnot. Yes, but you're messing it all up. But see, what they did, they told you that the work needs to be done, but they skipped over the training part. You have to really watch for that. And then after 6 months, they say they're going to test you. So they test you without training you. But they can say that they told you. They told you this work has to be done, but they really didn't train you. Training means you do something over and over and over again with their supervision. The word supervision means superior advice, all right, meaning the best of advice. And they go to walk you through each step. Like if you're going to train someone to go up a ladder or to fire a rifle or to drive a tractor, you have the person do it over and over and over and over again. And as they make mistakes, you point out the mistakes and correct the mistakes. So you just don't criticize the mistake off to the side and then come back and check. You help them correct the mistakes as they make the mistakes, because that's how the person who is doing the training learns, most likely. So then you go over and over again. Same thing, over and over again. Do it again. And so much so, if you have what you call really superior training, you do something repetitiously to the point where you get to the place you get bored with it. You say, I've already done this, you know. Why are you telling me this again? Because I'm training you. I want to make sure that you can do it in your sleep. You can do it without thinking about it. That's what you call real excellent training. Many military services do that. They'll say, we've been over this. We've done this. I've been through these hoops. I can lift these weights. I've already proven that I can lift the weights. Well, lift them again. That's what you call training. See, so that it doesn't depart from you. Many years later, I mean, you can do it. You don't even have to think about it anymore. You're thinking about it, but, you know, that's just a slang expression. But that's training. But many a black person has been fired off of a job because they skipped the training. They jumped from the telling that the job has to be done. They told you the job has to be done. This is the job you're going to be doing, but they didn't train you. See what I mean? And you really have to watch for that. It's the 3 T's of labor. But if there's a white supremacist involved, they will jump over the training part for the non-white person, but they will give that training part sometimes surreptitiously, meaning in a sneaky way, to a white person and not give it to the non-white person. Have Saturday meetings on the side and all that type of thing.
Meeting after the meeting after the meeting.
Meeting after the meeting after the meeting.
Yeah, we see.
And they'll say, now here's the real deal on this. This is the way. I'm going to take it a simple way to get this done. But we're not going to tell them. We're going to take them the hard way around. All right? That's how that's done.
Now, I read at least 1,000 pages of the Obamacare stuff when it first came out. And you're correct. I mean, I was sitting there and saying this, I mean, like old Sambo used to do, or Willie stepping fetching, scratching my head. I'm saying, what the hell is this? I mean, I didn't know any of those words. I mean, I got a dictionary. I went and bought a medical dictionary to try to at least comprehend what they were talking about. You're right. It could have been so much simpler. I mean, even prescriptions. I mean, things are complicated that don't have to be. And now, for the first time, you have, I think, cleared it up as to why it is, Mr. Fuller.
Racism. That's what it comes under the banner of. At least that's how, in counter-racist science, you immediately say, when you see something like that, you say, well, I think it's the usual suspects. That's the way you say it in words, in a simple way. I think we're dealing with the usual suspects because we had something that could be simple. Now it's being made more and more complicated. So we have the usual suspects, and the usual suspects are those white people. Not talking about all white people. I want to emphasize that. Talking about those white people who have chosen to participate in the system of white supremacy. They are the usual suspects. That's how you refer to them. You don't call anybody by that. You don't call anybody by the name or the title of racist. You don't ever say to a white person that that white person is a racist. Why? Because in the system of white supremacy, you got an uphill fight trying to prove it.
Yes.
But you can say that you can look at a situation and you can say, this situation seems to be under the dominant influence of people who believe in white supremacy. But you don't ever point out anybody as being one.
What's the basic criteria, Mr. Fuller, for knowing if white supremacy is at work in a situation?
It's because it's doing harm to people of color. That's the giveaway right there. The white supremacists are in charge of all of the affairs of the people of color on this planet. That's why it's called a system of white supremacy. And you can underline supremacy. Supremacy means supreme. You're the first and last word. You're the go-to people. You're the people who have it all. Not some of it. You got it all. Nobody else has anything. So if you're non-white and you're on this planet, you come under the system of white supremacy. Now, that statement is either true or false. And I'm saying it's got to be true if there is a system of white supremacy. So that's the first thing that has to be agreed on. Is there a system of white supremacy, or is that just a slogan that no longer exists, or never did exist, maybe? That the actuality. But you either have it or you don't. There's no such thing as in between. And there's no such thing as a little bit of white supremacy, like you have it in one place and don't have it in another. No. If it's supreme everywhere, 24/7, in all areas of activity. So if anything is going awry, anything is happening, if a black 16-year-old is walking down the street and being shot right now, and on the way to school, the white supremacists are the usual suspects. They say, well, yes, but it's a black person that did it. Same thing. White supremacists are the usual suspects. Why? They're in charge. That's why. It's not supposed to happen on their watch. Period.
That's
Don't
right.
take any prisoners on that.
Because the
gun, prisoners on that.
Yeah, the gun does not have any black name on it, and even the distribution route. I see what you're saying.
We're talking about the captain of the ship. The entire planet is considered a slave ship in the system of white supremacy. It's being run on a racist basis. Therefore, anything that happens on that ship, just like on any ship in maritime law, they call it, the captain is to blame. Recently, there was a few months ago, or a year ago or so maybe, a ship that turned on its side, I understand. I think it's still there. They're trying to get the ship upright because the captain, they said, allegedly wanted to get the ship closer to the shore. And the crew members followed the captain's orders. And so the ship collided with some rocks, I think, and turned on its side. It was a luxury liner, and I think it's still in the water now. But like in the case of the Titanic, and under what they call maritime law, the laws of the seas, they say the captain is always to blame for anything that goes on the ship, even though the captain may not have even been on the ship at the time. The captain is still the captain of that ship. So the white supremacists taking the position of saying we are the people that should be running the planet. I'm a white person and I believe in white supremacy, which means all non-white people should come under my thumb because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to run the planet. They don't know how to run anything. And I have it all. I have all the knowledge. I have all the best of intentions. So I'm in charge, and I will take charge by force,
All right.
deceit, and violence. And so, therefore, if you take charge, that means you're to blame for anything that goes incorrect.
All right. Stay right there, Mr. Fuller. More to come on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTameRadio.com.
Considering a career in allied health, fitness, HVAC, business, or electronic systems? Then look into American School of Technology. AST features nationally accredited programs, small classes, hands-on training, and personalized attention. You could get your diploma or certificate within 12 months with career assistance available for graduates. What's more, AST offers financial aid for those who qualify. Visit our website at learnatast.com. That's learnatast.com. American School of Technology, 2100 Morse Road, Columbus. 614-472-4665. 614-4 School.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. Really? They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-371-5898, 800-371-5898.
You gotta fight for your right to party! If you like to party, and who doesn't, you know that sometimes stuff happens. Stuff like assaults, drugs, DUIs. Connie Goodell Newton understands. She's not here to judge anyone, just to provide the best legal representation possible. Facing criminal charges, Connie takes very special care handling her criminal cases and works hard to ensure that her clients receive the very best results possible. Do you have a record? Connie's very familiar with the new expanded expungement statute. Got warrants? Connie may be able to keep you out of jail. Connie also handles domestic relations and mediation cases. Call Connie Goodell Newton from the law firm of Fatrakis and Goodell Newton at 307-9783. Connie welcomes clients from diverse communities, GLBT, African American, activists, students, and more. So party on. Just remember, if you get just one phone call, make it to Connie Goodell Newton at 307-9783 or online at fgnlegal.com.
This is Connie Goodell Newton, and I will fight for your right to party.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
I don't believe people make movies just to entertain. Wise people make movies to move people in certain directions. In 1970, after the Congress of African People, when the minister spoke and was given words to say by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and those words caused me to be interviewed by the great brother Tony Brown on his wonderful show. And I was in Jamaica getting some rest after 15 years of work, 7 days a week. And Elijah Muhammad sent me to Jamaica to get some sunshine and rest. And while I was there, next to the Holiday Inn where I stayed was a beautiful resort called the Half Moon. And one of the great black actors of the 20th century, our brother, oh boy, a senior moment, Brock Peters, was making a movie in Jamaica called Lost in the Stars. And he told me when we met and had a wonderful exchange, he said the producer of the film said he would like to meet you. And he took me to the set where the movie was being made. And at a break, the producer came out to meet me, or director. He was a Jewish man, and he said these words to me. He said, Farrakhan, you seem like a nice person. It's not you that we fear. It is your ideas. And then he said, there's a group of us that meet either on Fifth Avenue in New York or in Los Angeles, and we discuss trends. And if we see a trend that we disagree with, we utilize our skills, our talents, to begin to move the people in a direction that we feel is best. In that meeting that they have on Fifth Avenue in a penthouse or in California, he told me there are writers, script writers, book writers, artists, people that influence people. And once they decide on a trend, books will come out, movies will come out, plays will come out, writers in newspapers will write, because the Bible refers to the masses of the people as sheep. And one word of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that we are easily led in the wrong direction, but hard to lead in the right. So Hollywood is not only entertainment, but it's shepherding or guiding or influencing behavior.
Mr. Fuller, I want to get your response. And you have long been someone who has told people over the years, or suggested, that they study movies, the power of these things. Let's get into that in this second segment, Mr. Fuller. In the third, of course, you have your questions or emails or things that you want to respond to. What is the power of this medium, Mr. Fuller? And is it, because I know I played segments from movies, and I know some of your favorites and the messages they have. What is it that you understand about movies, Mr. Fuller, that other people need to begin to look at them from a whole different perspective?
Always look for the lessons in movies, because at a very early age, after I got past what you call the typical Saturday matinee quote-unquote westerns, Roy Rogers, Charles Starrett, the Durango Kid, Bill Elliott, Wild Bill Hickok, Hopalong Cassidy. These were movies that I went to at an early age, where I sat on the front seat spellbound after I'd spent my little 5 cents to get in there in the colored theater. And I would look up at the screen and I would see these men on horses, and just all through the movie, it was just gunfire, gunfire, gunfire. And I was enchanted by that and fascinated by it, and always wanted to come out of the movies and get me a cowboy gun and get me a cowboy outfit and a 10-gallon hat and get 2 guns with pearl handles, we called it, and go and shoot somebody. And so that was the lesson that I was picking up from looking at the movies real early. And so, because that's what I was looking at. That's all the cowboys seemed to be doing. I never knew what the issues were. I heard them say something about the deed to the land, or that the rustlers are down there trying to make off with cattle or something like that. But that was even that was sort of in the background. I'm just waiting for the shooting to start because I got in the habit of that. So at a later age, I began to see that all kinds of lessons are transferred through moving pictures. And so I began to study each scene of moving pictures. And right now I've heard that one of the second greatest movies is a movie called Casablanca. Came out in the early 1940s. The first greatest movie of all time, I understand, is a movie called Citizen Kane. I've seen both of those movies. And in my opinion, both of those movies are loaded with lessons. In an opening scene in Casablanca, it's something that most people wouldn't notice. And I didn't notice it for years. I'd seen the movie over and over again. But then when I looked at it, maybe I don't know at what time I looked at it, after a number of times, I noticed that Humphrey Bogart, the leading character who played the part of Rick Blaine, who ran a casino and a restaurant called Rick's Cafe in the movie, and the opening scene where he first appears on the scene, I didn't notice it until I'd seen the movie, I guess, maybe a dozen times. And then I noticed what was Mr. Rick Blaine, the character in the movie, playing. The casino owner, the cafe owner, played by Humphrey Bogart. What was he doing? He was playing chess by himself, which means he was moving his opponents, making the moves for his opponent while he made the moves on his side of the chessboard.
That's heavy.
All right? Meaning he's studying how he would move and also how his opponent is likely to move. And that's in the opening scene when Humphrey Bogart, playing the part of a character named Rick Blaine, that is a lesson right there. Because all through the movie, he was a person who was studying people. All through the movie Casablanca, he was studying the different people that he had to be around every day. His employees, the people who were supposed to be his friends who were not quite his friends. Or sometimes they were his friends and sometimes they weren't his friends. Like Captain Renault, who let it be known, Rick, I'm with you as long as you're winning. And when you start losing, though, you can't rely on me to be your friend. Because after all, I mean, I'm working with the Germans, too. It was in a World War II type setting and whatnot. So this French captain, was saying, I go whichever way. He said it literally in the movie, in a line in the movie. I go whichever way the wind blows. I'm just a poor, corrupt official. He said it outright. Said, so if Rick, as long as you're getting over on the Germans, I'm with you. But when the Germans start getting over on you, I'm with them. I want you to understand that. Because after all, I'm just a poor, corrupt official. I go whichever way the wind's blowing. And that was a lesson. And then there were other people who were just dedicated regardless. They say, well, I'll go down swinging for the right cause and whatnot. And Rick was in a dilemma because he didn't know whether to go along with them or not. But he was always wavering. But at the same time, he's always calculating and even arguing with himself as what's the best thing to do in every situation, because every day I'm faced with situations all day long where I have to make major decisions. And I want to do the correct thing, but sometimes I don't do the correct thing because it won't even be feasible at the time. I try to get in position to do something correct later, but I have to do something incorrect right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the movie is loaded with lessons. The movie Casablanca. It's a corny movie in the minds of most people, and then down through the years, I made a whole list of maybe about 40 movies that I think are just loaded with lessons. Give us
some examples, if you can call out some of the ones that you felt people ought to really study and decode.
Well, I usually start with on the list with a movie. I start with that what sometimes has been popularly called the Greatest Generation.
Okay.
Movies, which means starting from about the Depression days right on through what we call the ultimate World War II.
Right.
That's sometimes referred to as the Greatest Generation.
Okay.
And so I would start with the movie The Grapes of Wrath. That's a Depression movie.
With Henry Fonda.
Yeah, with Henry Fonda.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's at the top of my list of the movies starting with the Greatest Generation movies.
Mm-hmm. And
then there's a kind of obscure movie. I mean, it's kind of like The Grapes of Wrath, Bound for Glory.
Oh, yeah.
It's about a itinerant musician, Woody Guthrie, traveling through Oklahoma and whatnot.
That's
a white man, I mean, who's down and out and just trying to make music and trying to get through life.
Arlo Guthrie's father.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of a folk musician and whatnot.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Lots of lessons in that movie about, sticking to principle and whatnot.
Okay.
See, certain things you look for in movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how things are done, how things work, how the economy works. There's a lot of lessons in that, in The Grapes of Wrath, where a person comes up on comes down to knock down the houses of his neighbors. And so the neighbor says, "Why are you knocking down my house? You're one of my neighbors, and you got a bulldozer, and you out here going to knock down my house, and I've been knowing you all my life." And he said, "Put that gun away. You're going to shoot me for knocking down your house? They're paying me to knock down your house. And, you're not going to shoot me." He says, "I will shoot you if you try to knock down my house." He says, "Look," he said, "if you shoot me, somebody else is just going to be hired to come behind me because they have already determined that everybody's got to move off this land. I've already had to move off. So now you've got to move off. And they have paid me some money to come and knock down your house because you got to move. And if you shoot me, they'll just send somebody else out here and knock down your house anyway. So get out of the way. I'm going to knock down the house." And he says, "Well, who do I shoot?" He says, "Well, if you shoot the bankers are already crying because they've closed the banks and they've lost their jobs." And he said, "Well, who do I shoot?" Say, "I don't know. All I know is they're paying me, $2 or $3 to come out here and knock down your house. And that's the only way I can make some money now because there are no jobs." That was the beginning of the Great Depression. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to who are these phantoms who are controlling everything. All right? There's lessons in that. These are lessons that black people should ask every day. Who is controlling my life? Who determines where I am going to be living and how long I can live there before I am forced to move? Who determines how much money I'm going to make? Who determines what I have to learn when I go to school? And who's going to guarantee me that when I come out of the school with my piece of paper that they say is some type of genuine passage to somewhere? Who is going to guarantee me that I have this passage, that I have a goal that I can reach? Who is going to guarantee me that? Or do I have any kind of guarantees on anything? Or am I going to be a thug and robber on the street? And who determines whether or not I am going to be that? Who is, who has supremacy over me and my destiny?
Mm-hmm.
And they, and people tell me that I'm in charge, but I don't seem to be in charge. I don't feel in charge.
Feel it. That's right.
I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. And people who talk to me talk in code. They don't guarantee me anything. They tell me that I'm free to do what I want to, but when I start doing something, and it looks like it's working, people stop me.
That's right.
And these are questions that every black person asks every day, either directly or indirectly. So, lessons. Look for the lessons. Because in these movies sometimes, for the most part, if it's not just one of those just bang, 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 because these are the kind of movies I think somebody makes for black people, where it's just shooting, no lessons, just kill somebody, kill your neighbors, kill the people down the street, just get in a car and have a drive-by. And that's what life is really all about. Isn't anything else to life except that.
And make the gunshot sound sexy.
Yes, right.
Stay right there. More to come.
And they call it thrilling.
That's right. That's a good one. Stay right there. More to come with Mr. Fuller and the compensatory concept, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
If you like to party, and who doesn't, you know that sometimes stuff happens. Stuff like assaults, drugs, DUIs. Connie Goodell Newton understands she's not here to judge anyone, just to provide the best legal representation possible. Facing criminal charges, Connie takes very special care handling her criminal cases and works hard to ensure that her clients receive the very best results possible. Do you have a record? Connie's very familiar with the new expanded expungement statute. Got warrants? Connie may be able to keep you out of jail. Connie also handles domestic relations and mediation cases. Call Connie Goodell Newton from the law firm of Petrakis and Goodell Newton at 307-9783. Connie welcomes clients from diverse communities, GLBT, African American, activists, students, and more. So party on. Just remember, if you get just one phone call, make it to Connie Goodell Newton at 307-9783 or online at fgnlegal.com.
This is Connie Goodell Newton, and I will fight for your right to party.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Hey, can I tell you something? Sure, what is it? I want to tell you about someone being cyberbullied. What is cyberbullying? Cyberbullying is when someone's being bullied over the internet and this person can't take it and is thinking about suicide. Have you told someone? No, I haven't told anyone but you. It's not my business, is it? Yes, it is. Tiberius says it's okay to tell the proper authorities. You must tell. You're right. It is okay to tell, and I might even be able to save her life. Good, because if you don't tell, I will, because cyberbullying is abuse. Thanks. I'm going to tell now.
Are there hidden sex words that impact your brain? Are there secret images and symbols that manipulate and control your child's mind and behavior? Why are so many youth unable to resist the destructive sexual messages beamed into their brain without them knowing they are being manipulated? Do you want answers? Get the new book, Sex Code War by Kahari and O'Hara, coming soon.
I'm Idaho's First Lady, Lori Otter, and I want to tell you that for thousands of people who live every day with chronic pain, there is hope. Fibromyalgia and related diseases affect tens of thousands of Idahoans, and for years treatments were difficult or unavailable. But now doctors have treatments that can help relieve the pain. Join me and the American Chronic Pain Association and help manage chronic pain. For more information about how you or a loved one can go from patient to person again, visit theacpa.org.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go? To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or visit peacecorps.gov.
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, radio the way it should be heard. I'm Brother Kahari, and we're alongside Mr. Fuller every day. And if you check your podcast, you'll note, as I told you last week, we would have everything updated, and it is. So you can go and hear the four that you missed. They're in now, the podcast, and you can go to TalkTainmentRadio.com, click on programs, click on a compensatory concept, and voila, there you are. They're right there. All right, Mr. Fuller, this is the time that you can be, I think you wanted to, if you have any emails out there. By the way, you can pick up Mr. Fuller's two works by going to produce producejustice.com. That's really one word in the new technical language. Producejustice.com. And then follow the prompts from there. That's all you got to do is go to producejustice.com and follow the prompts, and that way you'll get the information on how to get Mr. Fuller's works. Mr. Fuller, let's talk about any emails or questions that you've received during the week that you want to answer, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I've received questions about, just yesterday someone gave me a question about the athlete, the basketball star.
The one that allegedly came out of the so-called closet?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And asked me what was my codified position, because I always say that I try to just follow logic. This is how counter-racist codification is constructed. You just follow basic logic. And so what did I have to say about the person saying I'm black and I'm gay, and putting that on the cover of a magazine? I understand something similar to that statement, and what would be the correct reaction to that? Well, I have taken the position long before the so-called gay rights movement became popular that you study what the white supremacist plans are, as best you can. What is the white supremacist position? That's the question. I tried to centralize everything and codify everything in just one basic question. What would be the basic question, rather than have a long, drawn-out argument about religion and what the Bible says and whatnot? And I have found that usually just turns out to be a long shouting match. In counter-racist science, you want to eliminate shouting matches and get to the core of what's really going on, why things are happening the way that they're happening, and who's behind it, if anybody, and what is the ultimate purpose. And particularly in a system or a culture dominated by racism, you always have a question about why anything is happening, and the way it's happening, and who's behind what is happening. And last but not least, for what ultimate purpose? So I would say that the question would be, why is it that the white supremacists are supportive and are not opposed to the proliferation of the degenderization? Now, I'm using some words here, which I'll explain. In other words, the spread of taking gender out of the lives or the existences of non-white people. In other words, this movement that is going on worldwide, and you suspect that the white supremacists have a lot to do with it, because they are putting a black face on in front of it. And very prominently, particularly, picking out the most intellectual, the most intelligent, the strongest of black people, and saying that you should be taking an interest in degenderizing and actually supporting it. And that gender should be more or less obsolete. You don't need to have a gender. Sexuality should be something that is just a word that doesn't apply to anything, and it has no particular purpose except just to be happy. And be happy doing anything, any kind of way, but don't do it under the banner of belonging to a particular gender. Just say that you have sexual organs, but they don't have any consequences of anything. They don't mean anything. It's all in how you feel at the moment, and you give vent to your feelings, because giving vent to your feelings is what happiness is all about. And everybody's supposed to be pursuing happiness. See, this is what seems to be the emphasis. You say, what's the reason for all of this, these changes in the sexuality and whatnot, and this recognition of different types of sexuality? What's the reason behind it? Well, if the reason behind it is greater happiness, that's the reason. Well, happiness doing what? In what manner? I mean, just whatever turns you on, you might say, if you want to use a slang expression. So you want to raise a question. Why is it that the white supremacists have no problem with non-white people getting plenty of this, but they have a serious problem of non-white people getting decent drinking water, getting a decent roof over their heads, wiping out diseases all over the world where non-white people are? They're suffering and dying from different types of ailments caused by neglect and caused deliberately by chemicals and whatnot that the white supremacists themselves spread and then deny that they're spreading it. And they have, started wars and whatnot, and battles rather, and killing people and having people kill each other, and they enjoy that. Now, why is it that they are not opposed to this proliferation of degenderization? In other words, degenderize people. You no longer have a gender among non-white people, that they are all right with that. Now, black people, non-white people all over the world should ask questions, including people who are so-called gay, should ask, why is it that the white supremacists enjoy me being gay, but they don't enjoy me having a decent roof over my head, unless I am gay? Okay? I mean, and they believe in white supremacy. Is this supposed to be a benefit? And if it is a benefit for whom, ultimately? And why are they publicizing it so much? Why do they want me to participate in publicizing it and lead the parade? If the non-white person is a so-called gay or bi or transgender or omnisexual or naturosexual or evangelisexual or true sexual or capital sexual or polysexual or monosexual or oral sexual or trash sexual or maxisexual or sacrosexual or religious sexual. See, in other words, I've come up with, just by speculation, since these are the trends now, modern trends, I've come up with myself with about 175 different titles, just like you have for all of these different so-called races of people, particularly in places like Brazil, where they do all this experimentation of racial classifications. Now, I understand they have a lot of racial classifications in what they call Brazil. They're doing the same thing with the sexuality.
Right.
And so now you have what? You have four major categories: lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. These are the four, if I'm not correct. What do they call it? LBGT?
Yeah, LBGT.
Now, it's strange. You have these, and they are supposed, since all sexuality is supposed to be equal, but there's another category that's not even mentioned, and that's called straight, whatever that means. But if you notice in the LBGT, what happened to the S? See, so at some point, if they're talking about equality and all like this, the S should be there because a lot of people are straight. Some people say most of the people on the planet are.
Yeah,
whatever straight means.
With the Williams Institute, now I want to say this, the Williams Institute, which is supposed to be the LBGT #1 institute in the world, has come out and they looked at everybody that supposedly is in the closet, not the closet. The best number they come up, these are the best researchers, says between 1.7 and at the high 3.8% of the people.
Yes.
As you know, that's an extremely small amount for all of the hype that goes on with this.
And why is so much of it directed toward non-white people? You can get funded, you can get supported. If you're non-white, I mean, you don't want to go all over Africa and spread the gospel of degenderization. In other words, don't pay any attention to gender. That's a myth. That's a bunch of nonsense. I mean, there's no such thing as gender. A male is a female, and a female is a male, and we're all the same. And these organs that they have down between their legs or wherever don't mean anything. Do anything with them. I mean, just anything that comes to mind, put them anywhere, engage them in any combination and whatnot, and it's all in the name of happiness, particularly among all you dark-skinned people. And I'm saying that the white supremacists, where non-white people are concerned, I don't know what they mean when it comes to the white people. I don't know what their agenda is, but if the white supremacists have anything to do with it, and I'm saying where non-white people are involved, it's the white supremacists who are engineering it all. They are the driving force behind it. Many non-white people have joined in, but it's the white supremacists who are going among the non-white people of this planet, saying this is the priority agenda. All of your other cares and woes should be put aside, and you should get on the bandwagon and push this degenderization among all of you non-white people, because this is what you all really need. You need this more than you need anything else. That's what they're practically saying. And they're doing it in your face in the movies and everything else. On TV programs, they just grind it out nonstop. And so a question should be raised. Well, like I said, in answering to the person who called me and said, I'd like that question answered. Why is this a priority among the non-white people of this planet, taking precedence over everything else, if it's not a part of the white supremacist conspiracy? And what is their ultimate reason for doing so? I say it's got to be to increase confusion. Because when people are confused, it's easier to dominate and mistreat them.
That's heavy, Mr. Fuller. That's a very deep thinking. Are we in a position, Mr. Fuller, have we started thinking about this, or are we just going along or quietly or just scared to say anything about it?
Little by little, I mean, in another 10 years, you better not say anything about it.
Yeah.
Or you might even go to jail for inciting a riot or whatever. Okay? It depends on which way the white supremacists want to take it. But the major question that should be raised by everybody, why is it that the white supremacists, the people who believe in white supremacy, either quietly or vocally, are not opposed to it and are actually in favor of it among non-white people? Yeah. And anytime you have a white supremacist that's in favor of anything for non-white people, the record shows that it always, even though it may look all great on the surface, it leads to some type of ultimate mistreatment, if it's not even in the process of establishing it or having a proliferation of it.
That's heavy.
A form of mistreatment.
Mr. Fuller, thank you so much. We always appreciate you. And
yes, sir.
If you want to catch Mr. Fuller, this show, the one that we just did, you can hear it tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So set your clock. If you didn't get a chance to hear it, tell all your neighbors. This show will replay tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Mr. Fuller plays 3 times on Wednesdays on Talktainment Radio, 5 a.m. in the morning when you get up in the morning, 10 a.m. live, and then 10 p.m. again, even more. And as we go forward, you'll probably see even more plays. Plus, now you can go to your podcast, and you can get all of the latest, including this one, here in the next couple of days, but certainly up until this one. The other thing is, don't forget to go to producejustice.com when you want to get Mr. Fuller's works. Mr. Fuller, we thank you as usual.
And thank you for inviting me.
Radio, the way it should be heard.